The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
What would you have done on September the 12th, 2001? What would you have done if you'd been president?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have done a legitimate investigation to find out what exactly happened on 9/11. How did they know who did this so quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald? How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
Because the people who did it were identified and we knew who they were.
Well, then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if they were identified and we knew who they were?
It was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it
that.
wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo, bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Oh, man, Ray D. Taking it back, strumming up some controversy. All right, that was Jesse the Body Ventura talking to Piers Morgan back when Piers Morgan, I believe, was on CNN. And that interview was from 2012. Oh, my God. That was 12 years ago. That's amazing. You know, I've talked about Jesse the Body before. Well, just mentioned him because his name got brought into the Robert F. Kennedy vice president potential list along with Aaron Rodgers. But I will tell you, after these interviews in 2012 that the Body did, he kind of went away. He really did. You didn't hear from him at all, really, which again is incredibly surprising to me because honestly, the guy was for sure one of the folks that, you know, again, whether you want to believe this stuff or not, and if you want to call him a conspiracy theorist, I mean, I guess he did have a show called Conspiracy Theory. That's fine, but the way I look at someone like this is, you know, in my opinion, he's asking questions. And if there's nothing to hide.
Oh, come off it, Jesse.
No, not come off it. Wait a minute. Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make out anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor of a national newspaper.
I've talked to
covered it in depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well,
and one thing I do know is...
Let me ask you this then.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
You know, I will say this about Piers Morgan. I can't say I don't like him. I actually do kind of like him. But, man, he does have a way of just getting under your skin because sometimes he's just so dismissive with his takes, and that's pretty interesting. It's kind of been that way with all the stuff with Gaza, although he has really gone through an evolution with the Gaza stuff, and I'll play you something on that later.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her.
All right. By the way, that is true. I have fact-checked that, and I'll find the original BBC video. Although, you know, last time I went to try to find it, it was like completely scrubbed from the internet, but I think I can find it probably on TikTok, actually. But anyway, I will say this. When it comes to the 9/11 discussion, forget the towers. Forget the towers for a second. Building 7. Let's just talk about Building 7. That building had nothing to do, did not get hit, was amongst a bunch of other buildings, you know, relatively near the Twin Towers, and then that thing collapses like hours and hours later. And by the way, I'll share with you what Building 7 housed in a minute.
It didn't fall for another half hour, yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true,
you need to
that
take
this
a break
building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
If you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over, you need to have a break, Jesse. We'll come back after the break, and we'll talk about Israel and Iran.
Are you kidding me? This is a fact.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was an interesting video. And you know what? I didn't even catch this until I was editing this right now. But again, remember, this is 2012. Listen to how Piers Morgan took it into the commercial.
Jesse, we'll come back after the break, and we'll talk about Israel and Iran.
Are you kidding me?
We'll come back after the break, and we'll talk about Israel and Iran. That's funny. That's funny. That was 2012. As Jesse the Body would say, are you kidding me? All right. Anyway, that was interesting. It's interesting stuff. The 9/11 stuff, by the way, with everything that's going on right now, there's a lot of, I guess, people are digging back into that. By the way, I will tell you one thing that this entire situation has caused, and I forget who said this. I'm not going to take credit as being a original statement, and actually it was in regards to, oh, you know what? My friend Brandon said this. Okay. I was talking to him about, I'm trying to get him on here because he's an expert in the hip hop world. And I'm a little bit fascinated on what's going on between Drake versus Kendrick Lamar, and then J. Cole is in the mix and all that. I'm interested in that stuff. So I called him. I'm like, dude, break this shit down for me. Like, what's the deal here? And he did. And I'll talk about that more in another podcast. But the one thing he did say, which I thought was brilliant, he said, man, this entire situation has turned Gen Z into like 50 million private investigators who are basically digging up dirt on everything and everybody. And that's totally true. That really is true. So like in the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar situation that's going on, basically, I'll touch on it a little bit. So long story short, those guys have been at each other for a long time, but then recently Kendrick Lamar, whom, by the way, and this is especially according to my friend Brandon, is like one of the GOATs when it comes to the hip hop game. Like, he really is an artist of the craft, whereas again, Drake, this is according to my boy, is more of a hack, and is more of, if not a hack, he's more of a manufactured star, manufactured star. And by the way, if anybody's a hip hop aficionado, chime in on this. Let me know your thoughts on this. But what he was saying was that basically about a month ago, Kendrick Lamar dropped a couple nuggets, like a couple nuggies into, I think it was a lyric on a Future song, but he basically dropped a couple pieces of bait, and Drake took the bait, and then basically what ensued is the internet pretty much absolutely becoming, again, like I said, a gajillion Gen Z private investigators, and a lot of bad stuff is coming out on Drake, like P. Diddy style stuff. So anyway, I got to gather some more information about that, but I think that stuff is interesting. I really do. And so that same thing is happening because of this whole Gaza, Palestine, Israel situation. People are going back to 9/11, and they're like, wait a minute, let's revisit this. So there's a lot coming out, and I think there's going to be more coming out. So that is that.
You said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing. This country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
Man, today is like throwback episode. All right, that's 1988, and that's Trump on Oprah. Isn't that funny? That's 1988, and that's him on Oprah, which, by the way, he went on Oprah several more times before 2016, and I'm looking into a bunch of stuff because, again, man, I think this stuff is interesting, and I'm gonna ask you guys honestly. I know a lot of you hate Trump. I really do. I know a lot of you hate Trump. I think probably more of you hate Trump than love Trump. I know a lot of you love Trump too. I totally get that. I don't really even care. Okay, I don't care if you hate him. I don't care if you love him. I don't hate him and I don't love him. I'm indifferent on the guy. But what I am is searching for the truth. I am absolutely searching for the truth when it comes to, who and what I think could basically be the best for this country moving forward. And so one thing that I will absolutely say, and I'll stand by this with anyone that wants to discuss it, is that prior to 2016, I can pull up thousands of clips of everybody under the sun with positive and good things to say about Trump, okay? That includes Oprah. He went on The View. He went on everything. He was everywhere prior to 2016. And then he becomes Republican, decides to run for president, and then all of a sudden all those people hate him. That's the fact, okay? Again, I could care less if you like him or if you hate him. That's irrelevant right now. What I'm trying to basically come to conclusions on is what's the truth and what's manufactured narratives, and what's manufactured narratives in terms of what people, the perception that they want you to think he is. Again, he might even be that perception. I'm not even judging that right now. I'm really not. What I'm saying is that the persona that people are either loving or hating right now, that person was viewed differently by the people that hated him prior to his presidency or prior to his running in 2016. So that is an undisputable fact. Now, the rest of it is all kind of opinion. So anyway, that's the first little introduction piece on that, which there will be more to come.
It's okay to be afraid of COVID, and it's okay that it's dominating your life.
Everyone should be afraid of COVID.
Listen to the scientists.
Science is truth.
Science is truth.
What is the impact to public health when people are openly questioning the science?
Now is the time to do what you're told.
This is funny. I really didn't plan on doing it like this, but a lot of times what I do is I save down a bunch of clips that I see on different platforms, namely Instagram and TikTok. And so I save down these clips and then I have them on my phone and I basically figure out when I'm going to use them. And as I was piecing today's episode together, I was like, oh my God, these are all kind of like media narratives or media talking points from the past that we can now go back and look and have maybe a different perspective on. I don't know. Hindsight is 2020. I will say, though, I did not like this statement from that little munchkin.
Now is the time to do what you're told.
Now is the time to do what you're told. And then that sinister little laugh at the end. Yeah, not a fan of that statement or laugh.
That when I see somebody out in the world who's not wearing a mask, I instantly think you are a threat, or you are selfish, or you are a COVID denier, and you definitely haven't been vaccinated.
I am triple. So why are you wearing a mask?
Listen to scientists.
Listen to the scientists.
Trust the experts.
We're going to trust science. We're going to trust the experts.
I'm having slight epiphanies as I put this episode together, and again, I'm not even going to comment one way or another on that, but I just wanted you to hear it and have this stuff top of mind as things move into June, July, August, September, and October.
Trust that vaccine.
Trust the experts.
Listen to the medical experts.
Trust the experts.
This isn't about freedom. It's about freedom for your neighbors.
You can give each other a hug as long as everyone is fully vaccinated.
Oh, man. I'm not even going to say anything. That's funny. Seriously. those were major talking points on all the networks. Isn't that interesting? I think that stuff is interesting. I really do. Okay, as I was looking for the BBC clip, I did find this ABC clip. Now, this thing was really interesting. So this footage was on CNN, and it aired either 9/11 or 9/12, and the footage aired once, and then they removed it.
The Pentagon, CNN's military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre. And Jamie, you got very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this sideway. But from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in. And as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, fuselage, nothing like that.
I always found the Pentagon one interesting as well, mainly because
there are no large tail sections, wing sections, fuselage, nothing like that.
That one was always weird to me as well, because it's like, where's the plane? Like every other plane crash I've ever seen, there's a crash precipitated by there's a plane. This time there was a crash and there was no plane.
How could Muhammad Atta's passport survive the fireball explosion that supposedly cremated him, fly out of his pocket, fly out of the incinerated plane, flutter to the ground into 2 feet of debris, and end up in readable condition in the hands of investigators, all within 48 hours?
I'm telling you, an unintended consequence of this Palestine stuff, this Gaza stuff, is it really has created like millions of investigative journalists. I had somebody send me this. That was another clip, and that was also on CNN. But I mean, it makes some great points. If you guys remember, I don't know if you do. Gosh, this was so long ago. But literally, you know, obviously the just destruction of the towers, which is so unfortunate. That's such a shame that such magnificent buildings had to meet their demise, as well as obviously all the people that passed during that. That's the most important thing. But anyway, it was amazing that among those, they found Muhammad Atta's passport like in perfect condition. And another great question.
Why did 19 Muslim men even need passports on domestic flights? How were passports found but not the plane's voice recorders? Why did the hijackers need passports they would never use again after their suicide flights? And why were the 19 accused Muslims not under surveillance on 911 if they were so easy to identify? The conspicuous trail of planted evidence continued 3 weeks after the 911 attacks, when anthrax letters killed 5 people and were clearly worded to throw the blame on Muslims.
All right, part of the reason why I'm also playing all these clips today is, again, I really am thinking this religious division, okay? It's pretty powerful, man. It really is powerful, because people are, man, they are very dedicated. I mean, some would use the word fanatical, but let's use the word dedicated to be kind. They're very dedicated to their religions. And obviously, when it comes to that, you know, you can really shape thought the way you want it through the clay of religion. Oh, shape thought through the clay of religion. Wow, I'm going to dedicate that to my cousin's wife, Rana. She's like an amazing pottist. What do you call someone that does pottery? Oh my God, I think I took some stupid pills before I started recording. A potter. How did I forget that word? Anyway, Rana is an amazing potter. She makes these like awesome creations. And if you want to get any, I'll hook you up. They are made with love out of Switzerland. So, and they're fantastic, actually.
Death to America, death to Israel. Allah is great.
Again, it's just interesting. You know, this interview, I think, was 2002, early 2000s, obviously relatively soon after the 9/11 stuff. But man, these taglines and narratives and divisional points, or whatever you want to call it, they've been in the mix for a while.
It has since been proven that the anthrax came from a U.S. Army lab and was never mailed by Muslims.
And there you have that. So again, come on, this stuff is interesting. You got to admit this stuff is interesting.
There are no airport security videos of any of the 19 accused Muslims boarding any of the hijacked planes.
That's like Jeffrey Epstein hangs himself, but there's no video of it because the cameras were malfunctioning that night for the first time ever. Oh, good golly, Miss Molly. All right, you know what? I'm going to take us out on a happy note with a song. May she rest in peace. Actually, may she really rest in peace. But no, I can't even set it up that way because it's not appropriate. A parody song of an amazing song from an amazing artist, but this is really funny. All right, enjoy this. Call a spade a spade. We'll talk to you soon.
Bitch, I don't play. I'm petty and I'm known to throw shade. Hating a hoe. Please just go. Don't get cute. Just walk away. Girl, bye. Bitch, listen. Fuck you. Bitch, listen. Fuck you. Get lost, boo-boo.
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.